welcome back to another episode of the Lotus Letters podcast. I am your host, Maddie, and this is episode number 6. Tonight's episode is going to be centered around communication, and unfortunately, we don't have a Lotus letter to read on tonight. That doesn't mean that we don't still want to hear from you. Please email us your letters at lotusletterspodcast@gmail.com. Go and hit the bell on YouTube, Lotus Letter Podcast YouTube channel. Please like, please share, please respond in the comments. We want to hear from you. We want to know how the shows are going. We want to know if you've been impacted, or has it been therapeutic for you. Tonight's guest is by far my very favorite guest thus far, and probably for the duration of this show. My daughter, my one and only daughter, Kayaja. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
This show was actually thought about at a night that you and I were just sitting around having fun, and even in having fun, we had a little spat, and during the spat, it was revealed to us that a lot of times we may be saying the same thing, but we're saying it differently. So we said, wow, communication is important. Knowing the person that you are communicating with is important. So I guess I want to start out the gate by just asking you, first of all, are you comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, cool beans. Just relax. This is going to be a relaxing show because there was no way I was going to have one of the more professional settings with my daughter. This is personal. Her communication style is important to me because there have been a lot of times where we missed it with each other simply because we didn't have the right communication. And I get it. A lot of people that look in at us, they think that everything is always hunky-dory between us until they come on the other side of that door and actually spend a little bit of time with us and they find out the real deal. However, at the end of the day, we both love each other. And although we might not always agree, we're going to always be connected from my eyes and from my point of view. So knowing you and knowing how to effectively communicate with you and to you is important, right? So with that being said, tell me and the fellow Lotuses, what do you feel your characteristic traits are?
As far as communication and some of my characteristic traits, I would say I'm very emotional. I could be soft-spoken sometimes, or I like to sugarcoat it sometimes with certain people because I just want an easy delivery. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Okay. And how would you say my communication style is?
My mom can be very direct. She can be very direct and assertive. And it comes off as overall, she's trying to be nice. But it's just a very direct, an answer. You get your answer.
I'm very black and white.
Right.
And I have learned that is not okay for everybody. There's a way to still embrace who I am and not kill people with my mouth, with wanting to make sure they understand my point. So my characteristics, I feel, just in general, outside of communication, is like you said, I'm very direct. I am assertive. Sometimes my assertion will go all the way to aggression because I will drive a point. I feel that your communication style is you use the word emotional. I always use the word sensitive when it comes to you. You're sensitive. You do, although you have the rah-rah side to you, you are very soft-hearted in your own right. And because of your characteristics, which automatically impacts how you communicate, we've missed it. My delivery and my intent was not delivered and received. Well, it was delivered, but it wasn't received.
And sometimes it could be the right message, but the wrong tone. And I think that's the big part that people miss when it comes to communication.
Right. And timing, because there have been times, and I'll openly admit, there have been times that as the mom automatically kicked into me, and you and your brothers be like, "Ma, I don't want to talk about it right now."
Right.
But the mom and me like, "No, what's going on? I need to know. Blah blah blah. Tell me. I see you crying, or I see you sad, or I see you melancholy," because that's the fixer in me. The fixer and the mom. I'm like, tell me now. You don't gotta wait and tell me. I'm your mama. Why are you keeping it from me? But that can be overpowering and definitely overbearing. And timing is everything. We were even talking about how even with girlfriends and sisters,
That can
how
be off
that
too.
right with them, you can grow up with someone, you can live with them, but we force our communication style on others. It's like, you've been my child for 21 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took a conversation recently for me to have an aha moment, like, oh,
Oh, that's her. That's how she wanted me to talk.
right.
And sometimes that can also change our expectations of a person too, because I know we have two different communication styles. I know how I want to come off and say things to you now because I know how you're going to perceive it. Perception also goes into it too.
I want to also add though that I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's accountability on both sides, right? There's
Yeah.
accountability and there's responsibility. I have to be accountable in how I deliver, right? And I also have to be responsible now that I have the information.
Right.
Implementation is everything.
But I feel like you're not responsible about how I perceive it because if I know you're a direct person and the conversation I want to talk about with you is going to be at the wrong timing, then we just not going to talk about it then. But if I know I'm going to get a nice answer, a clear answer, and I need it at that time, then I'm definitely going to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And I was about to say responsible and accountable. I was going to say my part, but I love how you jumped in and said what you're responsible for and you're accountable as well. And that's how real, open, honest conversation happens. And I believe also, Lotus, is that's how people can become vulnerable with others because they're trusting now, right? It's a safe place now. They don't feel like, or hopefully they won't feel like when they go and they talk or they want to communicate that their head is going to be chopped off. Or I don't feel like that when I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to be drained because I'm not always in touch with that emotional side. Because it's not that I don't have emotions, it's not that I'm void of them, but sometimes when moving through certain spaces and being responsible for a lot of things, you don't have time to navigate several different emotions. But now I have to be responsible, like, take a minute. Who am I talking to right now? My daughter is worth me stepping out of whatever role that I'm in where I have to have assertion and really take the time and become who and what she needs.
But I also feel like two things can be true at the same time. You may be an emotional person in general, but you're not putting it on your forefront, whereas I am putting it at my forefront. So I think that's also when you're talking about communication, you got to think about who you're talking to, like you said, but also, should I really have to do that? Because sometimes I think that's what a person needs. Like sometimes I know I'm emotional, but I need that directness because that can also pull me out of that emotional response to my situation.
Well, that's where the responsibility and accountability come in and accompanied by timing. So if I'm going to be responsible in the moment and accountable in the moment, I'm going to be able to manage that time, that appointed time, that set time for my delivery. And hopefully at that timing, you'll be receptive. And if you need that directness, now that our relationship, we've already established the baseline as far as what communication looks like through our lens. We have a relationship. So there are certain variables that are now involved that are going to allow, hopefully, a better communication with delivery and reception. And we said that about girlfriends too, because we know we always got that one girlfriend that everybody else is talking about her. But why not say to her what's really going on?
May not get it. She may not get it.
But okay, I love that. So what if you've been friends 15, 20 years, all right? 15, 20 years, you already know how she move. You already know how she get down. You already know how her expectation is or how she views things, right? She may be on her journey to healing, she may not. But nevertheless, you've been friends 15 or 20 years. Why is it that if there's a party of 5 girlfriends, it's always a group that talks about 1 or 2 instead of having the conversation with her?
Because some friends are not receptive to that, even if time doesn't mean anything in the friendship. How long? I don't think duration.
Talk about that.
I don't think duration means anything in a friendship, because you can know a person for 2 years and feel like you've known them longer than the person you've known for 20. So it's all about relationship, the openness of the relationship, and the comfortability as well, the vulnerability about it.
I love that. So I'm hearing you say, although our time of 15 and 20 years, which to some will quantify a very long time, how would you be connected to someone for that number of years and not know them?
I think sometimes because people, over time, you grow. And sometimes we hold on to the old version of when we met a person, and we don't really, I'm not going to say accept, but maybe we don't always process. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a homegirl. I've known her for 9 years, and she's changed every year. Like, she's grown. Like, we grew up together. But the girl I just became friends with, like, 2 years ago, I feel like we have a better communication style because we talk about different. The relationship is different.
Y'all are vulnerable with each other. You all are connected. You feel like it's a safe place. And that means everything. I love how you answered the question. Duration does not mean relationship. Yeah. It's the content. It's the quality. It's the time spent learning each other.
And I also feel like it's about how you built the friendship. Or the relationship, because I feel like day ones are different from like survival friends. Survival friends are very different from day twos. You kind of, the way you meet a person, their situation, the way you guys build rapport is very different from like a sandbox childhood friend. You know what I mean?
I get it. I totally get it. People you've been in the trench with and warred with is different than people you met after you were on the come up.
Right. People you met during the rain is very different from the people you meet after the rain, during the sunshine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Come on, daughter. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I'm with it. So tell me, since we've had the conversation, and we definitely haven't hit the mark every time. I already know the answer to that, even after having the conversation.
Because it's a trial and run. I've now given you tools to how to communicate and how we can better affect our relationship. And it's going to come with obstacles, like scenarios that happen to test the openness and the communication part.
But the love, the value, the desire to genuinely be I was leaning right on into her. Lotuses, it got good to us. Um, the value, the love, the genuineness, actually desiring to get it right relationship wise.
That matters.
Right. Because mother daughter relationships, how they're built, how we navigate them is important because it's we're going to either pour into you all or cause you all to have to really spend a life of recovery.
And it's tricky because you're teaching me things and I'm teaching you things. And so we're both teaching each other and we're learning from each other. So it's like I said, like a trial and error kind of situation. But people are expecting it to be, well, she's just like a mama, so they must be okay. If they're close, they must be okay. But even mother and daughter, best friends, whatever, we still have our disagreements in time.
Right, right. Because at the end of the day, I'm still your mother. There's an assignment that I have as your mother. So some days I will be like, nah, we ain't doing that. That's not happening. And then there's some days I really have to sit and listen to you because let's be real, we had this conversation over the summer as well. I can't navigate you as 10-year-old Keaja. You're 21-year-old Keaja. You are an adult. So I can't handle you the way I would when you were a teenager or a toddler. That time, if I miss what I was going to pour, okay. But I have to safeguard these years and we pick up and we navigate and keep it pushing. Anything else you want to share tonight about communication?
I do have a question for your lotuses to, think about.
Okay.
As far as communication, what do you think mothers get right with their sons versus their daughters and then vice versa? Because I also feel like that plays a part, as well as like my communication style is very different with my dad. And his communication style back to me is very different than he would do with my brothers. So what do you guys think about that?
That's a very good question. I think I know you asked our lotuses because you're a lotus too. You're a lotus too. I think the foundation, whether it's mother-daughter, mother-son, father-daughter, father-son, there's a level of respect. Not even waiting until you become an adult. There's just certain tones or certain words that we really should not have exposed you all to in conversation at certain ages. We have to learn to navigate our conversations. So that I'll say publicly in front of everybody, I apologize to you and your brothers because all of my conversations with you all when you were younger weren't positive. They didn't come through a filtered lens of happiness. Some of it was frustration, some of it was sadness, depression, anger. There were joyous times, there were happy occasions. We ain't have everything sad and drum, no. But we navigated life as so many people do on the other side of their door in their homes. So I would say respect for where you are. And that goes back to the responsibility and accountability. So that's my answer first. And we want to hear from our lotuses. Email your responses to the Lotus Letters Podcast at gmail.com. We want to hear you sound off in those comments on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok. Send us your letters. We've already started receiving a few. We want to have you on to share. We want to have you on to interview. Or if you want us to read your letters anonymously, we would do that too. We thank you so much for not finding it robbery to tune in to our shows. looking for us to air weekly. I love the inboxes. I love the text messages. I love when you all stop me when you see me and really tell me how the show is blessing you. Share, like, and we will see you next week. Always the Lotus.